But let's flip from this domestic nightmare to foreign policy here for just a second. We are quickly approaching Joe Biden's 100th day in office, and our adversaries like Iran and China are becoming ever bolder, and we keep helping them. Biden revoking the permit for the Keystone XL pipeline, of course, forced Canada to go to China to meet their energy needs. That's money to China. Biden also re-entered into the Paris Climate Accords, another move that benefits China. And then we have this. Many other examples, by the way, but check this out. A bombshell of sorts discovered in the New York Times today. The Times buried this detail 21 paragraphs into a story about Javad Zarif, Iran's foreign minister. Quote, former Secretary of State John Kerry informed him that Israel had attacked Iranian interests in Syria at least 200 times. I'm going to let you digest this for a second. Think about it. If true, that means the Secretary of State John Kerry under Obama is trying to kiss up to the Iranians, an evil regime, and get the Iran nuclear deal done, which would be a huge accomplishment for him and a very selfish move. Kerry sells out one of America's greatest allies to the largest state sponsor of terror in the world, selling out Israel to Iran to try and get this stupid deal done that we all know was horrible. Kerry, for his part, denied the allegation tonight with this tweet. Hopefully we're going to learn more about this in the coming days, but this is a really big story, especially because he's in this current administration. To break this down further, this allegation, we spoke with former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley earlier. Ambassador Haley, thank you so much for taking the time. It's good to see you. I want to start with a pretty troubling story about John Kerry from back when he was Secretary of State. The New York Times actually buried a detail on him in a story about Iran's foreign minister. Quote, former Secretary of State John Kerry informed him that Israel had attacked Iranian interests in Syria at least 200 times. This is back when they were trying to get the Iran nuclear deal, of course. You tweeted today, this is disgusting on many levels. Biden and Kerry have to answer for why Kerry would be tipping off Iran, the #1 sponsor of terror, while stabbing one of our greatest partners, Israel, in the back. This is a really big story. What exactly do you think should happen here?
I mean, Rob, this is truly horrifying. I mean, the idea that Kerry would do this is appalling in its own right, but Biden and Kerry have to answer for this. He should not be sitting on the National Security Council. He shouldn't be involved with any of our foreign policy if this is what he does. And then the worst part is to stab our ally Israel in the back and take up for Iran, who's the largest state sponsor of terrorism. It's ludicrous.
I mean, we talk about John Kerry a lot. I mean, we poke fun at him a lot because he gives us so much ammo. I mean, he really is foolish. I mean, to think that you're going to get anywhere by throwing Iran some nuggets that they shouldn't have, I mean, how foolish is he and this administration on the threat of Iran?
You know, it goes back to Obama. This is Obama 2.0. Obama loved Iran. I mean, and he took it to Israel every chance he got and even humiliated them right until the very end. And, you know, now we're watching basically Biden's falling all over himself to do business with Iran again, which is just everyone around the world is not going to understand why Biden is doing this. But really, to do this to our friend Israel is just disgusting.
It is unbelievable. It doesn't make any sense. The Biden administration last week saying it's willing to lift sanctions on Iran. This was a State Department spokesman, Ned Price, on Friday.
There are sanctions that are inconsistent with the JCPOA. And as we have said, if Iran resumes its compliance with the nuclear deal, meaning that if Iran once again becomes subject to the most stringent verification and monitoring regime ever negotiated, we would be prepared to lift those sanctions.
Is there any way that they can actually trust Iran? Is there any way that you can watch over them enough to actually trust them to lift the sanctions?
Oh, I went for President Trump. I went to the IAEA that monitors Iran and really did some questions before we got out of the deal. And the one thing I found out is, number one, they were violating multiple UN resolutions. They were on top of that. They weren't allowing any of the facilities to be checked for 45 days. They weren't allowing any of the research institutions or military installations to be looked at. And so it was really, when you look at what they were doing already, they were lying and they were cheating. against America, and then they took all our money. The idea that Biden wants to go get back in this deal, it makes us look so weak around the world that he's just trying to appease them. It doesn't make sense, and I think this is going to backfire.
It's so incredibly foolish. Again, it makes no sense to me. Turning to China now for a second, another big problem. The Chinese commissioned 60,000 tons worth of major vessels earlier this month, including a new nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. What are your concerns with China? What should the Biden administration be thinking right now?
China is our number one threat around the world. And the idea that they are continuing, they have the largest naval fleet in the world. They have more air defense systems, missiles than we have. And Biden's going and cutting defense spending. I mean, I think that China sees that we're distracted. I think they're making their moves. We saw that during COVID. And I think they're going to continue to do that. And the one thing that we have to quit thinking is if we're nice to them, they're going to want to be like us. They don't want to be like us. They are communists. They want to be communists. And they're out to be the superpower of the world. It's the reason why I think we should boycott the Olympics. I mean, if you look at the fact that China is 1 million Muslim Uyghurs being in concentration camps, making them change their name, change their religion, making them drink and go against their religion, all of these horrific things, slave labor, the fact that they're doing that and no one's calling them out on it. And then you go and you look at President Xi, and he's basically a commission that says any company that does business with the Chinese military, with China, has to cooperate with the Chinese military. I mean, think about our tech. Think about data that all of our tech companies have, and now that the Chinese military have it as well.
Yeah, it's something else. You're set to host the Iowa GOP's annual Lincoln Dinner. You're going to help fundraise for Republican candidates. Tell us a little bit about that and the work you're doing, I guess, for 2022.
Well, you know, basically, prior to November, I was campaigning there a good bit. We worked for Joni Ernst. We got flipped 2 House seats with Ashley Hinson and Marinette Miller-Meeks. And so going back to Iowa, we're working on defending those 2 seats again. Chuck Grassley's up. The governor, Kim Reynolds, is up. Yeah. And so it's, you know, another important year in Iowa. And I appreciate the opportunity of going and helping them out again.
I want to talk about 2024 for a second. You've indicated potentially running. You say you're not running for president if Donald Trump runs for president. Give us an indication where your head's at on all this.
Well, I think that 2024 is a long ways away, and anyone talks a bit foolish. I think that our focus should be on 2022, winning the House back, winning the Senate back. I don't think I need to make a decision on 2024 yet. And so I'm going to continue to do everything I can. In terms of the president, we had a great working relationship. We got a lot done in foreign policy. I'm proud of all of the work that the administration did. And out of respect, I would never do anything to go against him. He knows that. I would have a conversation with him and talk to him about it should we decide we want to pursue it. But no, I mean, I have a great respect for him, and I would never consider running against him.
Okay. Nikki Haley, former UN ambassador, thank you so much for the time. Good to talk to you.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.